The second-generation Volkswagen Beetle is a car you buy simply because you like it. There's no other argument in its favor. Yet it holds its price well and finds buyers. If you also like its looks, check out what awaits you in operation. Volkswagen launched this project in 1997, developing the new Beetle based on the Golf 4. The car was intended, among other things, for the American market, where the classic Beetle is very popular. However, it also sold well in Europe. After 13 years of production, and by the time the Golf V6 was already on the market, a new model was launched. The second generation, called the Beetle, without the new name, was based not on the Golf, but on the Jetta. Like its predecessor, and the Jetta itself, the Beetle was manufactured in Mexico. Although production of the new Beetle ran almost parallel to the Golf 7, in practice it utilized the mechanical solutions of the Jetta 6, which was more closely related to the Golf 6. Therefore, the Beetle is based on the A5 PQ35 platform, the same one used in the older Seat Leon 2 and Skoda Octavia 2. This platform is also used by the Skoda Yeti, Volkswagen Scirocco, and Touran. Despite its relatively young age, the Beetle draws on the technical solutions of previous generation cars, as the Golf 7 and related models share the MQB platform. Yet the powertrains and infotainment are just as modern as those in newer models, though they also represent a distinct mix. Volkswagen Beetle engines. Under the hood of the Beetle, you'll find engines from two different generations, both TSI and TDI. Early models featured engines from the EA111 petrol and EA189 diesel families, while the 2014 facelift saw the introduction of new designs, the EA211 and EA288 respectively, which weren't used in the Golf 6 but were used in the Golf 7. It's safe to assume then that cars produced before 2014 are more closely related to the Golf 6 and those produced after 2014 to the 7. In the case of the 1.8 and 2.0 TSI engines, we have a single designation, but an older and a newer version. Here too, the change took place in 2014. All variants, including the American 2.5, were paired with either a manual or automatic transmission. The 2.5 and the two less powerful diesels had 5-speed transmissions, and the others had 6-speed transmissions. The automatic transmissions were either 6 or 7-speed DSG, except for the 6-speed Tiptronic in the 2.5. What kind of car is the VW Beetle? In everyday use, it's like a Golf. Its dimensions and front seat space are similar. Both the hatchback and the convertible are effectively two-seaters, accommodating 2 additional passengers, including children. The car is registered for 4. The build quality is high, as is the equipment in many examples. Unfortunately, all the plastics within the driver's reach are hard and look more impressive than they feel. The painted plastics, however, are pleasing. The trunk has 310 liters, making it closer to the B segment than the C segment. It also has a high loading sill. It's certainly not a functional car, but it makes a positive impression. That's what it was designed for. The suspension work with MacPherson struts and a simple multi-link setup is no different from a typical compact, although it must be remembered that the 2-liter TSI variants were powerful, so the chassis tuning is more reminiscent of the Golf GTI. It's also worth noting that, like other updated historical models like the Fiat 500 or Mini, the Beetle was also offered in a variety of styling options, radically influencing both its appearance and its feel. There was the sporty Beetle GSR and the crossover-like Beetle Dune, as well as the musical Beetle Fander Edition and the R-Line styling. Let's start with the engines. Which one is best? The American version of the 2.5 definitely deserves recognition here. This 5-cylinder engine is also found in Jettas and Golfs imported from overseas, but it is in the Beetle, Volkswagen's least popular compact, that it appears most often on our market. This engine has 2 invaluable advantages. It's simple and dynamic. 170 horsepower is adequate power for this model, and indirect injection allows for the installation of an LPG system at a low cost. This is the only variant in this model suitable for this purpose. Pairing this engine with an automatic transmission is a piece of cake. You don't have to worry about servicing, even though it's little known in our country, but there's no shortage of repair parts. They're not even particularly necessary, as this engine is considered reliable. The only real drawback of this version is the model year. only available until 2014. This engine is the one to focus on when looking for a pre-facelift petrol version, as the TSI variants pose a certain risk. Lesser EA111 variants have issues with their ancillaries, a fragile timing chain, and the 1.4 TSI also has issues with its turbocharger and supercharger system, as well as overall durability. The facelifted engines are completely safe. Even the infamous 1.8 TSI, which significantly improved the durability of its rings and, consequently, its oil consumption. However, in my opinion, this engine is pointless. It offers only marginally better performance than the more refined and potentially cheaper to maintain 1.4 TSI with 150 HP, and significantly worse performance than the equally better 2.0 TSI. The 1.4 TSI's advantages include not only good performance but also economy. If you don't drive much, it's the best petrol choice. A few more words about the most powerful variants, the 200 horsepower 2.0 TSI. These are related engines, and in the 210 horsepower GSR version, they're straight out of the Golf GTI. Contrary to appearances, they're not only more refined than the 1.8 TSI, but also more refined than, for example, the less powerful 2.0 TSI variants from other models. So there's no need to worry about them, even the early ones. Diesels are, without exception, worth recommending. The 1.6 TDI is for the frugal, as it can occasionally drop fuel consumption below 4 liters per 100 kilometers, and on average below 5 liters per 100 kilometers. The 2.0 TDI is now a common rail engine, so there's no need to worry about serious problems, although it still requires servicing. The best diesel is the 150 HP version after the facelift. Not only is it fuel efficient, but it also rarely breaks down. It also offers significantly better performance than the 1.6 TDI, which didn't last much longer. However, if you're looking for post-facelift fuel economy, you can rely on the very durable yet effortless 2.0 TDI with 110 hydrogen phosphide. There are no major concerns about manual gearboxes, but in the case of DSG, 6-speed transmissions are more durable, such as those in the 1.8/2.0 TSI petrol and 2.0 TDI diesel engines with 140 or 150 HP. 7-speed transmissions are less durable, although they are also less stressed. What goes wrong in a Volkswagen Beetle? This is actually a difficult question due to the low popularity of this car in our country, and it is difficult to rely on information from the USA because the conditions of use there are completely different than in our country. There are certainly some drawbacks that a certain group of users complain about, and one of them is water pouring into the trunk. And this isn't due to a defect, but to the design of the trunk lid. This only happens in variants equipped with a spoiler. Additionally, early TSI variants can experience problems primarily with the timing belt of the 1.2 TSI and, in some cases, with the 1.4 TSI completely failing. DSG gearboxes can also experience problems after about 200,000 kilometers. There are, however, advantages, such as the high stability of the electrical system, good anti-corrosion protection, and durable yet inexpensive suspension and brakes. There's a small asterisk here, however, because corrosion does occur, and if it occurs in this model, it's likely due to a history of accidents or flooding. Another advantage of the model is the interchangeability of mechanical parts with other VW Group cars, so they are cheap and easily available. Is it worth buying a Volkswagen Beetle? In my opinion, absolutely. It's a visually unique car in its own right, and technically very understated and undemanding. It's certainly cheaper to run and more refined than the iconic Mini, but significantly more comfortable and spacious than the equally iconic Fiat 500.